Millionaire abandoned his pregnant wife. She became richer. He begged on his knees. They say that every life holds a secret, but this secret was different. It was laced with heartbreak, betrayal, and the sharp sting of regret. Leonard Ashford, a charming millionaire, married the gentle and devoted Selena Rodriguez, only to abandon her when she was most vulnerable, pregnant with his child. Little did he know that fate would twist his fortune in ways he could never imagine. From lavish galas in London to humble dinners in Selena's one-bedroom apartment, their paths would cross again, revealing hidden motives, shattered promises, and a shocking reversal of fortunes. This is their story, one of heartbreak, resilience, and ultimate triumph. Leonard Ashford's origins were anything but ordinary. He grew up in an affluent family in New York, a family whose deep ties to international business and politics made them notorious in powerful circles. His father, Gregory Ashford, was a renowned real estate mogul who had once discussed potential developments in Austin, Texas, with none other than Elon Musk in a closed-door meeting. His mother, Diana Ashford, was a fashion icon who hobnobbed with supermodels and once shared a stage with Naomi Campbell at a prominent fundraiser. The Ashford name was an emblem of prosperity, style, and old money. From a young age, Leonard found himself surrounded by luxury. Summers on private yachts in the Mediterranean, winters in Swiss chalets, and an Ivy League education at Yale, every door opened for him with minimal effort. Charming, handsome, and charismatic, he was used to people fawning over him, and he rarely heard the word no. Yet for all the opulence in his life, Leonard carried a restlessness. He longed to prove that he, too, could build a legacy, independent of his parents' influence. By the age of 28, Leonard had launched a promising venture capital firm in Manhattan. With his father's network greasing the wheels, the firm raised millions in record time. It focused on tech startups and quickly garnered a reputation for delivering spectacular returns. At exclusive parties where celebrities and CEOs mingled, Leonard easily worked the room, making deals with a warm smile and a firm handshake. In his quest for establishing a name, Leonard had little time for genuine relationships. Romance, to him, was an afterthought, an indulgence for those who had time to waste. Yet, life has a way of steering us to unexpected corners. During a charity auction at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Leonard locked eyes with Selena Rodriguez for the first time. She was radiant in a simple navy blue dress, vastly different from the designer gowns flaunted by the wealthy socialites around her. She had an air of earnestness he found refreshing. While others dripped with diamonds and pearls, Selena wore a single locket around her neck, housing a tiny photograph of her late mother. The moment their eyes met, Leonard felt a strange pull. It wasn't simply attraction. He had seen countless beautiful women before it was something more profound. Selena worked as a charity liaison, advocating for underprivileged children in marginalized communities. She was there that evening to secure sponsorships for a school renovation project in the Bronx. Her sincerity made Leonard's lavish world seem shallow by comparison. Intrigued, he approached her, introduced himself, and offered to donate to her cause. But Selena was not swayed by his smooth approach or the Ashford name. She merely thanked him politely and went on her way, leaving Leonard feeling both amused and somewhat captivated. In the weeks that followed, Leonard found himself thinking of her often. He asked around discreetly, discovered which foundation she worked for, and arranged another chance meeting under the guise of discussing a potential donation strategy. Selena, still grieving the recent loss of her mother to illness, was at once careful and curious. She agreed to a dinner meeting where Leonard attempted to dazzle her with talks of high finance and his philanthropic desires. She listened but countered every attempt at self-praise with questions about how he intended to make a difference beyond mere writing of checks. For perhaps the first time, Leonard recognized that someone was testing the authenticity of his intentions rather than simply praising his wealth. A connection blossomed against the odds. Where Leonard had always boasted about his privileged background, Selina opened his eyes to the struggles of single-parent families, immigrants fighting for better opportunities, and the day-to-day hardships faced by those living below the poverty line. Her values began to shape his worldview, and for once, Leonard started to envision a purpose beyond multiplying zeros in his bank account. Sparks of genuine affection turned into a whirlwind romance. Soon, tabloids caught wind of Leonard's new relationship with a woman who, by their standards, had no pedigree or trust fund. Yet Selina's warmth and grounded nature were precisely what Leonard needed. He realized that amidst all the pomp and glitter, he had never truly felt an emotional anchor until her. However, not everyone was thrilled about Leonard's newfound love. His father, Gregory Ashford, looked upon Selina with thinly veiled disapproval. He believed a wealthy man needed a wife who came from a similarly influential lineage, someone who would strengthen business alliances. Selina, in his eyes, was a liability. Diana Ashford, although more gracious on the surface, echoed her husband's thoughts behind closed doors. She worried about the family's reputation, real estate deals, and how Selina might reflect on them at elite social gatherings. Despite parental pushback, Leonard proposed to Selina in front of the iconic fountain at Lincoln Center after they finished volunteering at a local fundraiser. She said yes with tears shining in her eyes, and, for a while, it seemed like love had conquered all. They wed in a modest ceremony in upstate New York, away from the high society glitz. Close friends and family gathered under blossoming cherry trees to celebrate their union. It was a day filled with hope, laughter, and whispered promises of a bright future. Yet, beneath the celebratory facade, seeds of discord were already sprouting. Over time, Leonard's parents launched a subtle campaign of disapproval, constantly reminding their son that his wife lacked the sophistication and social standing expected of an Ashford. Selina felt their animosity at family dinners, masked beneath forced smiles. When she tried to discuss charitable ideas or talk about the meaningful programs she managed, the conversation was swiftly pivoted to luxury travel or gossip about the rich and famous. Leonard, caught between his love for Selina and his ingrained loyalty to his parents, tried to smooth out differences, but tensions grew. Selina, determined to stand on her own feet, continued her humanitarian work. She frequently visited shelters, organized school supplies for children, and spent weekends attending local community events. Though she had access to Leonard's immense resources, she tried to remain humble, hoping to blend her world with his. If she could show his parents the positive outcomes of her efforts, maybe they would relent. However, each philanthropic success seemed to threaten the Ashfords more. They interpreted Selina's charitable endeavors as naive do-gooding, rather than a serious career. Through it all, Leonard struggled with conflicting loyalties. His business demanded extensive travel. He had meetings in Silicon Valley, potential expansions in Tokyo, and investor conferences in London. He was often away, leaving Selina alone in their modern penthouse, which overlooked Central Park. She tried to keep herself busy. On top of her foundation work, she took cooking classes, tried to network with various philanthropists, and planned for a small family of her own. When she discovered she was pregnant, her initial joy was tinged with concern about how the news would be received. Leonard had expressed conflicting desires about children. He claimed to want them one day, but always referenced the mounting pressures of his business. When Selina finally told Leonard she was expecting, he reacted with a mixture of astonishment, pride, and sudden anxiety. Would this new responsibility hamper his ambitious plans? He assured Selina he was thrilled, yet in private he fretted about the timing. Most of his friends from the venture capital world were still single or childless, traveling the globe to chase lucrative deals. Fatherhood would ground him, and that notion frightened him more than he cared to admit. During a dinner at the Ashford mansion to announce the pregnancy, the atmosphere quickly shifted from subdued politeness to an icy tension. Gregory Ashford offered a brief congratulations, but his eyes flickered with disapproval. Diana forced a smile, but it never reached her eyes. And just like that, Selina felt more unwelcome than ever. She excused herself to the patio, leaning on the rail, wondering if marrying into the Ashford dynasty had been a mistake. She loved Leonard, but she sensed that his family's disapproval and possibly his own doubts might overshadow their joy. Selina was no stranger to adversity. She had been raised by a single mother, Celia Rodriguez, an immigrant from Mexico who worked 2 jobs to put food on the table and ensure Selina got an education. Celia's unyielding dedication and love had instilled a stubborn resilience in Selina. Growing up, money was tight, but their small apartment in Queens was always filled with laughter, warmth, and optimism. Celia's dream was to see Selina graduate from college, a dream Selina fulfilled when she earned a scholarship to study social work at Fordham University. Every step of Selina's life was guided by her mother's teachings of compassion, empathy, and perseverance. Even after losing her mother to a long battle with cancer, Selina continued to channel Celia's spirit. She resolved that the negativity emanating from the Ashfords would not break her. She had a child on the way, and that child's future was her priority. She believed that, in time, her in-laws would see her sincerity. As her pregnancy progressed, Selina immersed herself more deeply into her work. She wanted to establish a foundation in her mother's name, the Celia Hope Foundation, to provide scholarships and healthcare support for underprivileged children. She had minimal funds to start with, but she possessed ample determination. With the small inheritance her mother had left and some savings she had managed to put aside, Selina quietly laid the groundwork. She sought advice from mentors like Dr. Andrea Johnson, a well-known pediatrician who had once worked with Michelle Obama on nutritional programs for low-income families. Dr. Johnson admired Selina's resolve and became an informal advisor for the fledgling foundation. Yet each time Selina tried to involve Leonard, he found excuses to delay. He was always between meetings or flights, constantly on calls with investors or attending glamorous soirees. Sometimes Selina felt more like a distant observer of his life rather than his partner. She consoled herself with the thought that once their baby was born, perhaps Leonard would embrace fatherhood, slow down, and find happiness in the simple joys of family life. As months rolled by, Selina's pregnancy entered its 3rd trimester. Instead of the excitement and preparation that typically surrounds expectant parents decorating nurseries, reading parenting books, dreaming of baby names, she and Leonard seemed to drift into separate orbits. Leonard was spending more time abroad, chasing new deals in Dubai and meeting potential European investors in Paris. His father also pressured him to expand the Ashford real estate empire, which meant Leonard was rarely home. When Selina insisted they discuss the baby's future schooling, healthcare, or even hiring a nanny, Leonard would brush the topics aside. "We have plenty of time," he'd say, or "let's talk after I close this deal. It's crucial for the firm." Their arguments became frequent, fueled by Selina's mounting frustration and Leonard's elusive behavior. One evening, as Selina tried to express her worries about raising a child who barely saw his father, Leonard snapped, "You don't get it, Selina. Everything I'm doing for us to ensure we have a stable future," he shouted, pacing around their living room. "I can't just drop these deals because you're feeling insecure." Tears welled up in Selena's eyes. "I'm not insecure. I'm pregnant, Leonard. This isn't just about us anymore. Our child needs you, needs both of us." He ran a hand through his hair, glancing at his phone buzzing on the table. "I need to take this," he murmured, ending the discussion abruptly. 2 days later, Selena received a sudden phone call from Leonard's assistant, informing her that he had flown to London. There was no prior mention of this trip. Confused and hurt, she tried calling him, but he only replied via text that it was urgent, a big opportunity. She had heard those words 100 times before. This time, though, the pang of abandonment stung deeper. She was 8 months pregnant, and her husband had left the country without warning. 2 weeks passed, without a single phone call, only sporadic texts about how busy he was. Selena felt an emptiness in their sprawling penthouse, each passing day confirming the suspicion that Leonard was distancing himself from her and from their unborn child. In a final attempt, Selena texted him, pleading for him to come home before the baby arrived. His reply was curt, "There's an important investor summit. I can't leave. I'll try to be back before the due date," but he did not return in time. Selena went into labor early, frightened and alone. She called her friend Mara Ortiz, who rushed her to the hospital. Through excruciating hours, Selena brought a baby boy into the world, naming him Gabriel after her maternal grandfather. Both mother and child were healthy, but Selena's heart was heavy. Leonard was nowhere to be found. Despite repeated attempts to reach him, she never even received a congratulatory note from London. When Leonard finally returned weeks later, he set foot in the penthouse and found it empty, the closets cleared, and the only reminder of Selena was a small letter on the marble kitchen counter. It read, "By the time you read this, Gabriel and I will be gone. You chose your path. We will find ours." She left no forwarding address. Selena moved out with the help of Mara, returning to the modest neighborhood in Queens where she felt more at home. While Leonard's betrayal pained her, she was determined to give Gabriel the nurturing environment he deserved. She contacted an old friend, Kevin McMillan, who worked as a legal consultant for non-profit organizations, for advice on how to finalize her departure from the marriage. Kevin warned her that stepping away from an Ashford would likely be complicated, given their resources and power. But Selena had no intention of demanding Leonard's wealth or fighting a legal battle for child support. She had lost faith in him. Her pride and the memory of her mother's struggles guided her to stand on her own. The day she filed for a formal separation, Gregory Ashford's legal team sent her a curt notice offering a settlement if she signed a non-disclosure agreement and relinquished any future claim to the Ashford fortune. Enraged by their lack of compassion, Selena refused. She wanted nothing from them. No hush money, no hush arrangement. She simply wanted her freedom and her child's well-being. She took a small apartment a few blocks from her childhood home. It was cramped, but it felt safe. Amid the baby's cries and midnight feedings, Selena quietly chipped away at establishing the Celia Hope Foundation, determined to create something meaningful out of her pain. She worked out of a makeshift home office, sometimes cradling Gabriel in one arm while typing grant proposals with the other. Little by little, she secured partnerships with other charitable organizations, forging alliances to make the foundation more visible. Although her resources were limited, her passion and sincerity proved compelling to donors seeking genuine impact. By the time Gabriel turned 1, Selena's foundation had begun to grow exponentially. A local news station did a segment on her philanthropic efforts, highlighting her journey from the wife of a millionaire to the founder of an emerging non-profit. The publicity led to more donations, volunteer sign-ups, and corporate sponsorships. Selena, now more confident, spoke at community gatherings, advocating for children's rights and educational reforms. She often invoked her mother's legacy, touching hearts and inspiring others to share their stories. Meanwhile, Leonard's world was shifting beneath his feet. The deals he had pursued in London failed to yield the hoped-for returns. In fact, one of the startups he heavily invested in collapsed in the wake of allegations of financial misconduct. His firm took a substantial hit, and rumors in the venture capital circuit implied that Leonard had become too reckless, too driven by quick deals rather than long-term strategies. Gregory Ashford, never one to handle public embarrassment graciously, berated Leonard for his lapses. Their relationship frayed under the pressure of financial disappointments. Diana Ashford privately blamed Selina for distracting Leonard, though Selina had not been in the picture for over a year. Gossip in upper-class circles painted Leonard as an overreacher who tried too hard to step out of his father's shadow. Back in New York, as the cracks in Leonard's professional life widened, his personal regret festered. Late at night, he revisited memories of Selina, her laughter, her kindness, the way she had gently laid her hand on her belly when she first felt Gabriel's kick. He was plagued by guilt for missing his son's birth, for leaving Selina alone, but pride, fueled by the Ashford name, kept him from reaching out. He told himself that if Selina wanted to return, she could. Instead, he drowned in work, attempting to salvage his reputation. Months turned into a year. The Ashford real estate deals stalled, and the venture capital firm's once soaring trajectory began to sputter. Investors withdrew, forcing Leonard to sell off shares and personal assets to stay afloat. The final blow came when a major partnership in Dubai collapsed due to an economic downturn. Leonard was left in a precarious financial situation. During this time, Selina's foundation was blossoming into a high-impact non-profit. Through Kevin McMillan's legal acumen and Dr. Andrea Johnson's network, the Celia Hope Foundation secured multiple grants, including one from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a health outreach program in underprivileged neighborhoods. Media outlets picked up the story of a young single mother building an effective charity from scratch, propelled by her authentic empathy and first-hand understanding of hardship. Before long, Selina was invited to speak at conferences, sometimes sharing the stage with prominent philanthropists. One day, she met Emma Walton, a billionaire entrepreneur who had made her fortune in e-commerce. Emma was moved by Selina's passion and became the foundation's largest benefactor, pledging millions of dollars to expand educational programs. This massive infusion of capital allowed Selina to scale her operations to more cities across the United States, partnering with community centers, schools, and grassroots organizations. As the Celia Hope Foundation continued to grow, Selina was thrust into a new level of visibility. Though the impetus behind her success was purely philanthropic, the irony that she was wealthier in her own right than she had ever been during her marriage was not lost on her. She could afford a comfortable home for herself and Gabriel now, though she kept life modest, focusing resources on the foundation's mission. Still, her financial standing and philanthropic impact elevated her status in the very circles that once dismissed her. Word of Selina's success inevitably reached the Ashfords. Gregory and Diana bristled at the news, referring to her meteoric rise as an opportunistic spin. Leonard, however, felt pangs of both admiration and regret. But he was struggling to tread water in a sea of bad debts. With the collapse of multiple ventures, he faced lawsuits from disgruntled investors. He sold off his luxurious penthouse, but the funds barely scratched the surface of his liabilities. Once courted by the elite, he now found doors slammed shut as word of his failures spread. Though pride had kept him from seeing Selina for 2 years, desperation began to corrode his defenses. He missed his son. He had only glimpsed baby photos on social media, shared by mutual friends who had visited Selina's foundation events. The guilt gnawed at him, an ever-present reminder that he had failed as both a husband and a father. Finally, in a moment of vulnerability, Leonard reached out to Selina. He left a voice message. "I'm sorry for everything. I'd like to talk. I want to meet Gabriel." Selina wrestled with the decision. She had moved on emotionally, but part of her felt Leonard, at least, deserved to see his child. She agreed to meet him at a small cafe near her office. Leonard arrived, noticeably thinner and sporting dark circles under his eyes. Selina, on the other hand, looked poised and self-assured in her simple yet elegant attire. The contrast in their fortunes was stark. Leonard stammered an apology, tears forming in his eyes. He explained his financial downfall, the betrayals he experienced from once loyal business partners. He pleaded to see Gabriel, to at least become part of his son's life. Selina listened calmly, her heart aching not for the once proud millionaire who sat before her, but for the father who had abandoned his child. "The last time I saw you, I was pregnant and alone," she said, her voice unwavering. "Now you come to me with sorrow only because you've lost everything. Gabriel isn't a last resort, Leonard. He's a child who deserves consistent love." Leonard nodded, unable to maintain eye contact. "I know I can't fix what I did. I need a chance to do right by him. Please." Selina exhaled slowly. "Gabriel doesn't know you. He's only ever known me. If you want to be in his life, you have to prove it. This isn't about money or convenience anymore. It's about responsibility." Thus began Leonard's tentative reintroduction into Gabriel's world, though Selina remained guarded. She established boundaries and insisted any meetings occur under her supervision. Gabriel, at 2 years old, was too young to grasp the complexities of the situation, but he seemed to sense the tension between his parents. As Leonard tried to rebuild his life, his parents retreated to their Connecticut estate, laying low amidst the family's financial losses. Gregory considered forging new alliances or perhaps even pulling strings in Washington to secure government contracts, but the Ashford name had been tainted by Leonard's debacles. Whispers circulated that the once dominant Ashford empire was on the verge of collapse. Diana, always one for social appearances, insisted that they distance themselves from the scandal surrounding Leonard's failed ventures. She rarely spoke to her son, except to criticize him for tarnishing the family reputation. At one point, Gregory hinted at the possibility of cutting Leonard out of the will if he continued to associate with liabilities. By liabilities, he implied Selina. Leonard felt like a pariah, forsaken by the very family he once sought to impress. Seeking emotional solace, he found himself calling Selina more often, if only to ask how Gabriel was doing. His visits became regular. At first, Selina's friends were wary of his motives, but gradually, Leonard showed a genuine commitment to fatherhood. He accompanied Selina and Gabriel to the park on weekends, learning how to push a stroller and change diaper skills he had once dismissed as irrelevant. As he spent more time with his son, Leonard's perspective shifted. The ruthless ambition that once fueled him began to fade, replaced by a deeper yearning for family and connection. But the spectre of the Ashfords loomed. One afternoon, as Selina and Leonard were picking Gabriel up from daycare, they were met by Gregory Ashford's personal driver. He handed Leonard a sealed envelope bearing the Ashford family crest and quietly departed. Inside was a stern letter from Gregory, demanding Leonard attend a family gathering in Connecticut to discuss urgent business. The tone was unmistakably authoritarian, giving Leonard little choice but to comply. Selina was not invited, yet the tension in Leonard's voice when he told her about the letter suggested that the meeting would be unpleasant. Against her own instincts, Selina encouraged him to go. "Face them and see if you can salvage any relationship," she said, remembering the hopelessness she had once felt yearning for familial acceptance. At least for Gabriel's sake. The sprawling Connecticut estate was eerily quiet when Leonard arrived. Massive oak trees lined the driveway, leading to a grand marble facade that once symbolized his safety net. Inside, Gregory and Diana greeted him with cold civility. Over brandy and hushed conversation, Gregory laid out the dire state of the family's finances. Several key properties were underwater, and with the tarnished reputation of Ashford Ventures, raising capital was nearly impossible. Leonard listened, stunned. In a moment of desperate vulnerability, Gregory proposed an arranged marriage between Leonard and the daughter of another billionaire family. The marriage, Gregory argued, could restore the Ashford name and bring in an influx of capital. Leonard stared at his father in disbelief. "You can't be serious," he muttered. "I'm already married, and I have a son." Gregory scoffed. "You are separated, and that woman, Selina, she's not part of this family anymore. You have a duty to secure our legacy." An argument erupted, filled with accusations and pent-up resentments. Diana tried to placate them, but ended up fanning the flames by claiming Selina had trapped Leonard with the pregnancy, that it was all a calculated plan to disrupt their family. Leonard, outraged, defended Selina for the first time in years. He told his parents how Selina had built a foundation that helped thousands of children, how she asked for nothing from the Ashfords, and how she never once attempted to harm the family name. He declared he would not enter any arranged marriage, nor would he abandon his child again. Gregory's face reddened with fury. "Then you leave me no choice. You're cut off, Leonard. The Ashford Empire will find another way. As far as I'm concerned, you're no longer my son." In a dramatic flourish, Gregory turned and walked away, with Diana following in tears. Leonard was left alone in the grand foyer, staring at the ornate chandelier above him, feeling both liberated and terrified. He had defied his father, chosen his child, and lost the Ashford name in a single moment. When Leonard returned to New York, he was emotionally shattered. He went straight to Selina's apartment, a place he once considered beneath his standards. Standing at her door, he recounted the confrontation with his parents, how he had been disowned for refusing to abandon Gabriel. Selina listened, conflicted by her lingering anger and her pity for Leonard's plight. He sank to his knees on her doorstep, tears streaming down his face. "I deserve no sympathy," he choked. "I only beg for one thing, the chance to be part of Gabriel's life, for real this time." Selina, tears in her own eyes, lifted him off his knees. "Our son doesn't need a father who grovels. He needs one who shows up, consistently." From that day forward, Leonard began the arduous process of putting his life back together. He took small consulting gigs with local businesses, made himself available to pick Gabriel up from daycare, and immersed himself in fatherhood. Selina watched warily at first, but gradually she saw Leonard's genuine transformation. The superficial sheen that once defined him was gone. In its place stood a man who was finally taking responsibility. Gabriel, now nearly 3, blossomed with both parents involved in his daily life. Selina still managed the rapidly expanding Celia Hope Foundation, often traveling to different states to launch new programs. On such trips, Leonard would care for Gabriel, feed him, read bedtime stories, and tuck him in at night, actions that once seemed unimaginable. Slowly, trust was rebuilt, brick by brick, through patience and shared devotion to their child. During one of Selina's travel engagements, an old flame from college, Christopher Lee, invited her to speak at a major gala in San Francisco. She accepted, and as part of her trip, she visited potential donors for the foundation. There, she secured a multi-million-dollar endowment from a group of Silicon Valley philanthropists. Word spread of her ongoing successes, and soon she was recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the top emerging philanthropists of the year. Back home, Leonard faced the aftermath of being cut off from the Ashford fortune. He lived simply and found pride in modest accomplishments. He discovered a new sense of purpose, volunteering for some of the foundation's local projects. He used his business acumen to help small community initiatives draft viable sustainability plans. And in the process, he learned that there was fulfillment in impacting lives directly rather than chasing ephemeral wealth. Despite Selina's guarded composure, she had never fully recovered from the trauma of her abandonment. She had shouldered years of heartache and self-doubt, uncertain if Leonard's transformation was durable or a passing phase. To complicate matters, rumors began swirling that the Ashfords might be involved in some shady dealings to save their empire, potentially inviting legal troubles that could affect Leonard. One afternoon, Selina was contacted by an investigative journalist, Natalia Perez, who had discovered questionable financial transfers within the Ashford real estate portfolio. According to Natalia, large sums were moved offshore to shell companies, possibly linked to political bribes. Leonard, though no longer part of Ashford Ventures, was still legally vulnerable if the authorities believed he had any involvement. Worried, Selina confronted Leonard, who was equally stunned. "I had no idea," he insisted. "My father never shared the full scope of his dealings with me, especially after I parted ways." Yet a subpoena arrived for Leonard, requesting his testimony in an ongoing federal investigation. Panicked, Leonard turned to Selina for support. Selina, recalling how he once left her in her darkest hour, could have refused to help, but she saw the distress in his eyes. She arranged legal counsel through Kevin Macmillan, who advised Leonard to be transparent about everything he knew, no matter how damaging it might be for Gregory. The day of the testimony, Leonard sat before a panel of stern-faced investigators, detailing the extent of his father's secrecy, the internal conflicts he had observed, and how he had been ostracized from the family business. Though he was not entirely off the hook, his cooperation placed the primary suspicion squarely on Gregory and his associates. Unbeknownst to Leonard, in the process of testifying, he might have accelerated the downfall of the Ashford Empire. As the federal investigation made headlines, the Ashfords were publicly disgraced. Gregory faced a myriad of charges, and Diana fled to Europe, dodging paparazzi and social humiliation. In the midst of this chaos, Selina's foundation soared even higher, thanks to the impeccable transparency and efficiency under her leadership. She received an invitation to appear on a daytime talk show hosted by a prominent media personality, Carmen West. Carmen's show had a nationwide audience, and Selina's appearance would further legitimize her philanthropic brand. On air, Carmen asked probing questions about Selina's past, her marriage to Leonard, and her journey from near destitution to philanthropic stardom. Selina maintained her composure, emphasizing the role of her mother's teachings and the mission of the Celia Hope Foundation. When Carmen asked about Leonard, Selina paused before responding. "We've had our differences, and he made choices that hurt both me and our child. But people can change. I've seen him grow. My priority is my son's well-being, and I believe a child should know a father who is truly present." That evening, after the interview aired, Leonard watched from his small living room, tears in his eyes. The woman he had once betrayed had just publicly offered him a path to redemption. He felt a surge of gratitude, recognizing that Selina's capacity for forgiveness was beyond anything he deserved. A few weeks had passed since Leonard's testimony before the federal panel. The sting of facing his father's illegal dealings remained fresh in his mind, but Leonard found solace in the small, everyday moments he now shared with Gabriel. He still marveled at how drastically his life had changed. He had traded designer suits for a more modest wardrobe, replaced high-stakes investor meetings with playdates and story time. Each day was a reminder of the family he had once neglected, a chance to earn back the trust he had shattered. Selina had been busier than ever. Her foundation's continuing success meant constant travel and a packed schedule, but she always found a way to prioritize Gabriel. Whenever Selina had an out-of-state engagement, Leonard stepped up to care for their son, filling lunchboxes with healthy snacks and fumbling through bedtime routines that, for the first time in his life, felt immensely meaningful. Despite their improved rapport, a silent tension hovered between Selina and Leonard, an unspoken question of whether their renewed partnership was temporary or had the potential to blossom into something stronger. On a crisp autumn evening, Selina received an email from Gabriel's preschool teacher, inviting all parents to a small recital the children had prepared. The news filled Selina with warmth, yet also a flutter of anxiety. She hesitated before messaging Leonard. "Gabriel has a recital next week. Would you like to come?" His response, a simple "I'd love to," brought a genuine smile to her face. Though it was a standard parental duty, for Leonard, it symbolized a milestone, a chance to be present, to stand in the crowd as a proud father. The day of the recital arrived, the sun shining bright above a gentle October breeze that rustled the golden leaves. Clusters of parents gathered in the preschool's modest auditorium, a cheerful space decorated with crayon drawings and motivational posters. Selina and Leonard settled into miniature chairs in the second row, exchanging polite nods with other parents who recognized Selina from local news coverage of her foundation. If they knew of Leonard's past fame or infamy, they offered no sign. They were just parents coming to see their children perform. Gabriel's class shuffled onto a small stage, covered in colorful construction paper leaves. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and denim overalls, he waved enthusiastically upon spotting Selina and Leonard. Selina gave him a thumbs up, her heart swelling with pride. Leonard, equally moved, captured the moment on his phone, his hands shaking slightly. He whispered, "He looks so grown up," and Selina nodded, realizing how quickly time had passed. The children began singing a heartfelt tune about friendship and family, their voices earnest and a little off-key. Yet it was perfect. Selina felt tears prick her eyes as she remembered the lonely nights spent rocking a newborn Gabriel to sleep, all the times she yearned for a partner who seemed too lost in his own world to be by her side. Now, here Leonard was, physically present and emotionally attuned, cheering for the child he had once abandoned. Once the applause died down and the tiny performers had bowed, parents clustered around the stage to take photos. Gabriel ran over, arms wide, and Leonard scooped him up. "You were amazing, little man," he beamed, pressing a kiss to Gabriel's cheek. Selina smoothed a stray curl on Gabriel's forehead, whispering, "We're both so proud of you." The trio posed for pictures, freeze framing a moment Selina could scarcely believe was real. After the recital, they headed to a nearby park. The air was crisp, the ground blanketed in vibrant leaves of red and gold. Gabriel, eager to burn off his post-performance energy, scampered off to chase squirrels and pick up acorns. Selina and Leonard followed behind at a leisurely pace, a comfortable silence settling between them as they watched their son's carefree laughter float through the autumn air. Eventually, they found a wooden bench beneath a towering oak tree. Gabriel, enthralled with the squirrels, kept a safe distance but stayed within sight. Leonard sat beside Selina, fiddling with a fallen leaf between his fingers. His expression shifted from content to apprehensive, as if weighing the right words to say. "Selina," he began softly, "I know I haven't earned the right to ask for much. After everything I did walking away, missing the birth, failing to be there when you and Gabriel needed me most, believe me, I'm aware of how deep that hurt runs." He paused, his voice cracking, "But I love you both more than anything. Spending time with Gabriel these past months has been," he exhaled, struggling to capture the depth of his emotions. "It's been the greatest gift of my life, the one I never deserved." Selina sat silently, her gaze fixed on Gabriel. She recalled the mornings he used to wail inconsolably, missing a father he had never truly known. She remembered her own tears and sleepless nights, hating how much she still loved a man who refused to see the treasure he had right in front of him. And yet, people changed. She had witnessed Leonard's transformation, his humility in seeking help after losing his fortune, his devotion to Gabriel, and his newfound empathy for those less fortunate. Leonard placed a tentative hand on her shoulder, prompting her to look at him. His eyes glistened with tears. "I want us to be a real family, Selina. Not because I have no other options, not because I've lost my wealth or been cut off by my parents, but because," he swallowed hard, "because losing you made me realize how empty my life was, how meaningless my pursuits were without you and Gabriel. I've never been more certain about anything. I want to do right by you both." The sincerity in his voice made Selina's own throat tighten. She recalled the facade Leonard once wore, the polished, arrogant millionaire who threw money at every problem. But this man beside her was different. He was vulnerable, remorseful, and above all, sincere. She thought of her own journey, how she had forged ahead with the Celia Hope Foundation, raising Gabriel alone, battling social judgments, and emerging stronger and wealthier in a way that had nothing to do with bank accounts. Could she let him back in? Her mind spun with memories and emotions. The nights she curled up in bed clutching Gabriel, the day she found out her foundation had secured its first $1 million grant, the feeling of empowerment when she refused the Ashfords' hush money. And now, here was Leonard, no longer the golden Ashford heir, but a father hungry for redemption. She took a shaky breath, tears threatening to fall. "I can't forget everything that happened," she said, her tone measured but laced with vulnerability. "I can't erase the pain or the fact that you walked away when I needed you the most. But I see the man you're becoming. You've shown up consistently for Gabriel. You've faced your father in court to protect yourself and us from his corruption. You've admitted your mistakes. That means more than you know." Leonard nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "I promise I'll keep showing you, day after day, that you can trust me. No more lies, no more vanishing acts, just us." Selina reached out and took his hand. "If we do this again," she said, her voice trembling with cautious hope, "it has to be on equal terms: respect, honesty, and shared responsibility. Not just for Gabriel's sake, but for ourselves. We deserve a real partnership." Leonard squeezed her hand gently, an almost disbelieving smile tugging at his lips. "I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that we can have that partnership." A rustling sound interrupted them, and they looked up to see Gabriel standing a few feet away, leaves stuck to his shoes and a curious expression on his face. "Mummy, Daddy, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" he asked, clutching a handful of acorns. Selina and Leonard exchanged a glance, both laughing through tears at the innocent question. Leonard knelt down and opened his arms. "Nothing's wrong, kiddo. We're just happy you did so well at your recital." Gabriel beamed, bounding into his father's embrace. Selina joined them, and for a moment it felt as though the swirling leaves and the world around them melted away, leaving only the warmth of a family reuniting. From that day on, their journey toward reconciliation began in earnest. They decided to attend counseling sessions, determined to confront old wounds and rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty. Week by week, they tackled their pain and insecurities head-on. Leonard openly confronted the guilt of his abandonment, while Selina found the words to express the loneliness and anger she had endured. It was not an easy process. Raw emotions flared, and difficult memories resurfaced. But every session ended with a reaffirmation of why they were fighting so hard, for each other, and especially for Gabriel. As the holiday season approached, they moved into a modest townhouse near the Celia Hope Foundation's headquarters. The space wasn't nearly as grand as Leonard's former penthouse, but it felt safe, welcoming, and genuine. Selina hung pictures of Gabriel at various stages of his young life, his first steps, his first birthday, a Polaroid of him asleep on her chest when he was just a baby. Leonard placed a photo of all three of them at the park, the one from the day of Gabriel's recital on the mantel, silently vowing never to let them down again. In those early winter evenings, Leonard would read bedtime stories to Gabriel while Selina finalized her foundation's year-end fundraising campaigns. Sometimes she'd catch Leonard sitting by Gabriel's bed, even after the little boy had fallen asleep, simply watching him, as if trying to make up for the countless nights he'd missed. Selina understood that journey all too well. The path to redemption was paved with small, everyday commitments, not grand gestures. Slowly, a fragile yet profound bond formed between the two adults who had once been strangers in the same marriage. They discovered new ways to support each other. Leonard offered his business acumen to guide her foundation's strategic planning, while Selina encouraged him to find new meaning in community-based work. They laughed over Gabriel's comedic attempts at making breakfast in bed, navigated typical toddler tantrums, and found themselves cherishing life's simplest blessings. Though the scars of the past did not disappear, they no longer dictated the future. Love began to flourish in the quiet corners of their ordinary days, shared cups of coffee in the morning before Gabriel woke up, playful banter in the grocery aisle, and late-night whispers about hopes and dreams that now included one another. And so, in the glow of a second chance, Selina and Leonard walked forward hand in hand. Each step they took a testament to the transformative power of accountability, forgiveness, and unwavering devotion. Over the next few months, life took on a quieter rhythm. Leonard continued consulting and even explored philanthropic work alongside Selina. He discovered a passion for mentorship, guiding young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds who lacked the connections he once took for granted. Selina expanded her foundation's reach internationally, collaborating with schools in Latin America, a personal dream of hers to honor her mother's heritage. Their relationship, though not without lingering tensions, flourished under the shared mission of giving Gabriel the stable family life neither of them truly had. As they navigated the complexities of forgiveness and love, they built a future on a foundation stronger than wealth, one of trust, empathy, and mutual respect. Though the Ashford Empire lay in ruins, Leonard found peace in the simpler joys of everyday life, helping Gabriel with art projects, discussing global philanthropic strategies with Selina, and cooking family dinners, something he had never imagined himself doing in his penthouse days. Friends who once scoffed at Selina now admired her resilience, and those who once envied Leonard's wealth found themselves respecting him more for his character growth than for his bank balance. In the end, the tables had turned in the most unexpected way. The abandoned pregnant wife had risen to a position of influence and compassion, a beacon of hope for thousands. The millionaire, once consumed by superficial achievements, learned the humbling power of love and redemption. And as they stood together, watching Gabriel blow out the candles on his third birthday cake, it was clear that life's truest fortunes were not found in stock portfolios or luxurious mansions, but in the unwavering bonds of family and the promise of second chances. Thank you for joining us on this emotional roller coaster where betrayal met forgiveness and heartbreak paved the way for hope. If you were moved by Selina's resilience and Leonard's journey from arrogance to humility, remember that real-life redemption stories can happen when people choose compassion and responsibility over pride. We all face pivotal moments that test our character. Sometimes we're broken by them, and sometimes we rise stronger, transforming pain into purpose. If you found inspiration in this tale of a mother's unwavering courage, a child's unquestioning love, and a millionaire's painful reckoning, Do share this video with friends who love a good redemption arc. Make sure you like this video to show your support. Subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thank you for watching, and remember, it's never too late for a second chance.